Good evening. Welcome to the regular council meeting for Laurentian Valley, Tuesday, October 17th. I'd like to start off with the Lord's Prayer. You can remain seated and join me if you wish. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those trespassing against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And his kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you. Dean, call to order, please.
Mover and a seconder, please.
Keith and Brian.
Moved by Reeve Watt, second by Councillor Ugly, that the regular council meeting of October 17, 2023 be called to order at 5:30 p.m.
All in favor? Carried. Roll call.
Mayor Bennett.
Present.
Reeve Watt.
Present.
Councillor Keel.
Present.
Councillor Hewitt.
Present.
Councillor Ugly.
Present.
Councillor King.
Present.
Councillor Wren.
Present.
All members present.
Thank you. Confirmation of the agenda. Jennifer and Alan.
Moved by Councillor Gauthier, second by Councillor Wren, that the agenda of the regular council meeting of October 17, 2023 be approved as presented.
All in favor? Carried. Declaration of peculiar interest. Seeing none. Minutes and notes. Motion September 19th. Betty and Jennifer.
Moved by Councillor King, second by Councillor Gauthier, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held September 19, 2023 be, and the special council meeting of October 3rd, 2023 be approved as presented.
All in favor? Carried. Motion for October 3rd. Keith and Alan.
Moved by Councillor Reeve Watt, second by Councillor Wren, that the minutes of the council and committee meeting held October 3rd, 2023 be accepted by council, and that the resolution from that committee become resolutions of council.
All in favor? Carried. No delegations, municipal reports, CAO report. Anything for Dean? Seeing none. Treasurer's report for Sean. Questions? No. Public Works. I think they started paving Pleasant View today, I think.
Yes, they were at Pleasant View and Stonyfield today, and for the length, they should be pretty close to getting it wrapped up today.
Right on. Planner for Lori. Anything for Lori? Seeing none. And my report is there. It was kind of a busy start to October. I'll mention a couple of items there. Last Thursday, we went for a ride on the ATV with the Fit and Feisty group. Went out to Big Trout Lake. There's about 17, 18 machines and about 25 people. Great idea. You know, all the socializing going on, and they have another activity going, and they talked about, I think they've got a spot in Petawawa for billiards for the wintertime. Anybody wants to shoot pool. They're just, wow, they're so busy, that group, and lots of activities they're adding all the time, so kind of neat to see. Went to Oktoberfest opening on the 14th. Cheryl Gallant and John Jakubuski and the Mayor of Pembroke were there. They had a huge crowd at the opening at 2 o'clock. Great to see all the volunteers there as well, keeping that tradition alive. Spooky night, hats off to Nevada. They had, for the first time, just over 200 vehicles, 500 bags of candy that Nevada and the city rec employee handed out. Probably took them like 2 hours. The mayor of Pembroke and I went around and judged the pumpkins. It was a great night. It wasn't too cold, so a great activity again for our taxpayers, City of Pembroke and Laurentian Valley, having no cost. I think the first 400 people got popcorn as well. So it was very well done. Again, like I said, hats off to Nevada. I attended the warming center meeting at the City of Pembroke Fire Hall yesterday, and with Dean, and we'll get into that later on in the meeting. Yeah, so it's been busy. Any questions? Get a motion?
Yes.
Betty and Wendy.
Moved by Councillor King, second by Councillor Hewitt, that the council receive the following reports from mid-September to mid-October at the regular council meeting of October 17th, 2023. CAO's report, treasurer's report, public work manager's report, planner CMC report, and the mayor's report.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Public meeting. Laurie, we'll call you up, and I get a motion to go into a public, Alan and Betty.
Moved by Councillor Wren, second by Councillor King, that the Council of Township of Laurentian Valley pursuant to Section 34 and 36 of the Plan Act hereby declare a public meeting open at 5:35 to discuss application for zoning bylaw amendment file number Z 2023 12 Hill Blacksmith Shop and Store.
All in favor? Carried. Hi, Laurie. I'll let you jump into it.
Okay, so we are bringing this item back to council for the second public meeting. The statutory public meeting was held previously, and there were some comments brought forward at that time. So in the interim time, the applicant was able to undertake some studies to try to address the comments that were brought forward. So with regard to that, there was a revised notice of tonight's meeting sent out. And it also had some slight revisions to the proposed definition to address some of the comments that had been brought forward in the past, and that included removal of the word school from any references, although there will be instructional classes. The word school had been an issue raised by one of the neighbors related to the cannabis retail store, and there's certain setbacks required from school, so there was a concern with that usage of that word, but as it's not a school under the Education Act, we removed that word. And then also there was bringing in the square footage, which is 325.15 square meters of floor area that would be used, so it would tie into a limitation for that, and also to clarify that there would not be the use of coal-fired forges as well. So that was included in the notice that was sent out to advise anybody who would like to attend this meeting that they were also able to attend to this meeting. So in that regard, we did also receive, so we received a couple of emails. I have sent those out. They just had come in yesterday and this morning, so they have been circulated to council separately, but there were some several emails of support from people who would use this type of business. And then there was also a second email following up from the previous public meeting from Stuart Ray, indicating that having reviewed the information in the reports and having had a discussion with the proposed business operator, that his concerns were now addressed and he had no longer had concerns. So that was just one of the ones that had submitted in the summer. So in regard to the reports, so there was both a final compatibility mitigation study, air quality, dust and odor, prepared by SLR Consulting, and there was also an environmental noise assessment report prepared by State of the Art Acoustic Inc. So with both of these reports, they did recommend some conditions for how operations would proceed that would mitigate any potential impacts of noise, odor, and dust. And so in terms of that, the largest recommendation is that the operations would be conducted with the garage door shut at all times while equipment is being operated related to the noise bylaw in particular. Sorry, not noise bylaw, but the noise mitigation. And then with regard to the odor and dust, again, there is no longer the proposal to include the coal-fired, so it would be strictly the natural gas-fired forges that would be used. And so, again, based on the study and based on it being in the fully enclosed building, that those parameters were deemed to be met by both of these reports. So then again, the other recommendation is that should there be proceeding, that any site plan agreement would also include the requirement to implement the recommendations of both of these reports, and they would be included as part of a site plan agreement that would again stipulate also that in terms of the timing, that the time for ceasing of operations at night that for things that create sound would be 9 o'clock.
Okay, questions of council? The only comment I'll make is that I'm still a little concerned that I think it's industrial in a residential partial area. I do thank Mr. Hill for going back and doing more studies and taking the coal out of the equation. Certainly, Lori has done her job to make sure that the regulations are there to be followed. The only question I have, and I don't know if Mr. Hill can answer or not, the odor when operating, is there going to be much of an odor now that the coal is gone? Or I know you're going to be using gas, obviously.
Hello, everybody. Good to see everybody again. Lanny Hill, 1012 Trail, Limestone Trail, Petawawa. So it'll be natural gas, not even propane, but with the big hood fans and the HVAC system we got, by code, they have to be 11 feet high anyway. So unless, I don't think there's going to be any smell at all. Not inside for sure. And outside, it's going to be high enough that it'll just get caught up in the wind and blown away. That's why the way it was explained to me is it had to be 11 feet high specifically for that reason. And once it gets into the air and whichever way the wind's going and all that, it's just going to get broken up by the rest of the air.
And with the garage door being closed in operation, the noise level outside will be...
So when we were doing the study, we were actually surprised at how fast you lost the noise at the site and how fast the traffic took over the noise. Even I'm a little surprised that the decibels for the power hammer, for example, is only 95. Like my blender at home is 106. So now I'm not saying it's not noisy. I'm just saying it's within reasonable amounts of noise.
Okay, any other questions from council? No? Do we have a motion?
We do.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Brian and Keith?
Moved by Councillor Ugly, second by Reeve Watt. Bear with me. The council approved the application for zoning bylaw amendment file number Z 2023-12-Hill Blacksmith Shop and Store, subject to recommended conditions for removal of the holding H symbol to be established by a resolution of council and forward bylaw 2023-10-056 as presented to the bylaw portion of the regular council meeting of October 17, 2023 for enactment. And council establishes conditions for removal of holding symbol from land zone HCE 30 holding. Zoning bylaw amendment file number said 2023-12 for Hill Blacksmith Shop and Store as follows: that the site plan agreement between the owner and municipality be registered against the lands to which it applies and includes language to address the following: to implement the recommendations of the final capability mitigation study, air quality, dust and odor, prepared by SLR Consulting Canada Limited, to implement the recommendations of an environmental noise assessment report R1 prepared by State of the Art Acoustic Inc., to require that the garage doors be closed at all times when blacksmithing equipment is in operation, to require that coal-fired forges are not permitted to be used, and to require that the use of blacksmith equipment is ceased by 9 p.m., that any other approvals required by regulatory authorities are in place.
Any further questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hill, for attending council, and on behalf of council, we wish you good luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Adjournment.
We motion to adjourn the planning meeting. Alan and Betty.
Moved by Councillor Wren, second by Councillor King, that the Council of Township of Laurentian Valley hereby declare public meeting of October 17, 2023 be adjourned at 5:40 p.m.
All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Laurie. Okay, Sean, under business asset management plan update.
Okay, well, this report isn't seeking any direction at this time, but I think when we're heading into budget and into the next fiscal year, with staff turnover that we've had and with new council members, I thought it was a good time to reintroduce or bring to the forefront the asset management plan. And it's a bit of a buzzword and a buzz phrase, but it is very important, and there are some obligations that we have as a municipality. So just a brief background on asset management planning. It kind of came to the forefront in June of 2011. The province of Ontario released what was called the Building Together. The province of Ontario released Building Together, which was this plan where the federal government, provincial government, and municipalities would work together to have long-range municipal infrastructure asset management planning. As part of that, there was a requirement in 2013 for each municipality to adopt an asset management plan. The Township of Laurentian Valley did that in 2013. Fast forward a little bit to 2016, the council adopted policy FIN 06, which was municipal asset management policy. This was a requirement from the federal gas tax agreement. So at that point in time, there was a policy that the I guess AMO and the federal government said that each municipality had to recognize in order to be eligible to receive federal gas tax funding. Fast forward a year, and the province of Ontario came out with Ontario Regulation 588/17, and that's basically where we're at today. That outlined significant or different timelines on what municipalities had to do by 2024. The first one was on July 1, 2019. Municipalities were required to adopt a strategic asset management policy, and then it led to a couple years later, July 1, 2021, to adopt another iteration of an asset management plan. And then by July 1, 2023, to expand that asset management plan to cover all assets, not just core assets. And then by July 1, 2024, to have proposed levels of service and to implement life cycle management strategies. The global pandemic put these behind a little bit, so really we have everything got kind of pushed back by a year. The township has the most recent asset management plan we have is from 2013, so we have not met the deadline that was proposed for the first iteration of core assets. Now we have implemented a strategic asset management policy, but we will need to work towards at least meeting the 2024 deadline, which would be to have a real asset management, robust asset management plan. And this is going to require some resources from our staff and some buy-in from council. So really, what is asset management planning? And I think it's important just to understand exactly what it means, because I think people can have different interpretations. But from the original Ontario government regulation back in 2011, asset management planning is the process of making the best possible decisions regarding building, operating, renewing, replacing, and disposing of infrastructure assets. And it's really important to understand that asset management planning is not just here today and now, it's long-term financial planning. The categories of assets that will pertain to us would be road network, water network, sanitary network, stormwater network, building and facilities, and then parks and recreation. Fleet can fit in either as a different category or into each of those categories. According to our policy, and this is just and what I'm also just seeking for today is to get on the record and on the books that we're identifying and we understand the need and that we are formulating a plan. But in understanding this, the roles and responsibilities, so what council's roles and responsibilities will be, are to provide input into policy development and then basically approve the asset management policy and direction. So flying from more of a high level. Responsibilities to ensure adequate organizational capacity to support the asset management program, prioritize effective stewardship of assets, so again, high level, and provide input into developing appropriate levels of service. And levels of service, you'll hear, maybe not so much at this budget time, but definitely in the first, as we work through this iteration of the asset management planning. And what that is what does the community and what does council expect from their assets? So, and I'm not a road expert, but if the road PCI is X on an arterial road, is that acceptable to council? And of course, what comes with levels of service is financial commitment, because obviously if you want to keep roads above a certain aspect, then there'd be financial commitment and implementing that on and on. So levels of service will become extremely important, and again, reiterate that tied to levels of service is a financial, the recognition that to have a certain level of service for our community, there needs to be an offsetting cost to that. The executive leads in this, as identified in the policy, as the treasurer, myself, and Mark as the manager of Public Works. And our main responsibility is to develop the policy, provide updates to the policy, and really be the drivers of the policy. So Mark obviously has more experience with the actual physical assets and what those assets are supposed to do. I mean, I know I'm supposed to drive on a road, but how you build it, it's not my thing. I'm there to provide the financial forecast and kind of help tie it all together. We need buy-in from all of our departments, so other staff, will be required to support and help, and it'll be up to us to ensure that we coordinate that and that it's a coordinated effort. So, and why this is important is if we don't have an asset management plan, there's a good chance that we won't be successful in obtaining grants. So the Ontario government is saying that's kind of they want us to do this, and the carrot is being eligible for grants. The stick is you missed out on a grant opportunity because you didn't work towards these goals. And it is on some of my reporting. They are asking when's your last iteration. And my last conversation with a Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing person was that what's your plan? So you haven't met the deadline, and that's fine. And there's multiple reasons why. Because what happens is I'm not an asset management expert. Everyone has things on their desk, and this kind of gets pushed to the side, and then when something comes, you pick it up and you do it. And a lot of municipalities, what they did was they outsourced these to other companies. I know a former municipality, I think it cost like $50,000 to get one of these done. So it's a lot of municipalities did that. They received grant funding, but they've checked that off. Well, our plan is not to do that. Our plan is to develop it in-house, so we have an understanding, so that over the long term we can bring it back to council and actually use it as a proper planning document. But we do need it to ensure that we can achieve obtaining grants. So I've listed out some of the goals that we'll have. We'll work through these. But I think the biggest thing is that we will need, we're going to need significant buy-in from council when we bring it forward, when we bring updates. And if you have questions, please ask. And if we don't have the answer, we'll make sure that it's in the next iteration of it, because we do want this to be a document that at future budget times, and we're making strategic decisions, that we rely on it, and it's something that we can use moving forward. I have attached, and I'm not going to go through it, but I've attached the 2013 iteration, the asset management policy, and we had a state of maturity report, I guess in 2019, that was put together by Public Sector Digest, that kind of went through where we were at that point in time in this process. So all of that is ready material, and I'll be happy to take any questions or any comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Keith, and then Brian.
So is it manageable by 2024 for the deadline that they want? Or do you have an idea how much time it is actually going to take?
Yeah, I think it's manageable in the sense of I think we can get a plan. Is it going to be the best plan? Maybe not. I mean, you have to start somewhere. So the township does have a very good handle on the inventory of assets, which is part of almost the first big step. So the previous treasurer did a lot of work, and our inventory of assets, we think, is in a pretty good spot. The next step to that is going to be ensuring, like, balancing in and make sure that it's still up to date at this year end, which I think won't be very difficult, but it'll be the actual condition assessments on our assets. So understanding and that just takes time, but we start with one asset class and you work your way through it, and you base it on assumptions at that time and document those assumptions. And as time progresses, the plan should become stronger and stronger. So my short answer is, we should be able to get something. If in 2 years from now, will it be the best asset management plan looking back? Probably not, but it'll be a starting point for sure.
So it's more the policy to have that stabilized, not necessarily all items identified and categorized?
We need to have the items categorized, but there's going to be based on the assumptions we make at that time. So we'll go on the best information that we have, but there has to be we have the policy in place, but the government is looking for the actual plan to be in place. So we need to have a plan, and we'll base on the assumptions. Like in this the one from 2013, there was assumptions that were made by the group that did it. and we'll have a similar type of plan. So, but the key is that it doesn't sit on a shelf, and every year it's used and updated. And so that's why I think we want to develop it in-house, is that we'll have that understanding, be able to improve on it as we move forward.
Thank you.
Brian?
So my question is, it was 2013 when the last one was done, and we got a lot of Ds and Fs on the condition of our assets at that point. And then we implemented some things to try and correct that and improve on them. So we're 10 years later now. Do we have any indication as to whether those items that we put in place have in fact improved our condition overall, or are we falling further behind?
I'll maybe turn to Mark. He would have a better handle on the condition.
Sure. So we use, for ranking and rating of our roads, we use a software called Street Logics, and it gives us a rating on our pavement condition index. And we have Pleasant View and Stonyfield to update, but right now we're sitting at 51% out of 100. That's the rating of our road system overall. So
Where was it in 2013?
we didn't have the PCI information then, so the information in 2013 was based on historic, so it was age-based. So it just said if the road was 25 years old, it was a certain number. Now we're actually using physical. We've only done this once, and the plan is to update in 2024, but we're using the actual physical condition now. So we don't have that benchmark to compare, because we've only had this study done once. But once if council approves a budget to have the company come back and scan the roads again in 2024, it'll give us a good comparison of where we were from before. When they scanned it a few years ago, we were probably 53, 54, so we have lost a couple of percentage points. And you can run scenarios in the software. I know I've sort of spent $3 million for 5 years, just as an example. And it wasn't until year 3 that we actually improved above the 51 at spending $3 million a year. So just giving that state of where the infrastructure is, and this is just the paved roads.
Okay.
So.
Al?
So not to try and add any work to any of this, but I get asked all the time, where does the airport fit into anybody's financial plans? Like, we're owned by 6 municipalities, but we're not included in anybody's plans, but yet we're considered a piece of municipal infrastructure. And I get asked that on a regular basis. Like you say, it's now the buzzword. I can tell you that any conversations we've had with senior members of the provincial government in any of the lobbying that we've done, it has actually never come up. But in any talks with the owner municipalities or other municipalities, it seems to always come up, and I never have the answer as to where those assets should be included, or should they be included.
So, it's a great question, and I had the same question. I had that with the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Center as well. And the group, so AMO has partnered, and they have this smaller group subset of, I'll call them asset management experts. So I posed a question to them, and we should be proportionately including the airport and the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Center's assets in our asset management plan. Currently, right now, their assets and liabilities are reported in our financial statements proportionate to our ownership stake, and the same would, I'm under the interpretation the same would apply to the airport and Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Center.
So would that mean that the airport commission would have to do its own study?
No, I think what would have to happen is, I think us and those partner municipalities would have to come together on some sort on understanding how we're going to do this. So it might mean that maybe one municipality takes a lead on getting a condition assessment on these and valuation and everything else, and then that gets apportioned out. But I think we'll have to discuss that as the group. To understand, because there are some that believe that those assets shouldn't be in anyone's plan, but then there's people saying that they should. So I think it's just about getting all on the same page and working through that.
Thank you.
Sean, I think with the Waste Recovery Center, we had an evaluation done a couple of years ago, so, because there was a potential partner buying in. So at least we have those numbers for you when you do it.
Yeah, that's perfect. And that's what we'll be, and a lot of it's going to be about, the data that we can find and collect and work in. And as we get there, we'll do our best to get there. I mean, first we'll start with what we have here and work through it, but we'll definitely at some point be looking to bring those into our plan.
I know it's going to be a lot of work, but at the end of the day, when it is completed, it's obviously going to be a document that we're going to look at quite a bit down the road, for sure. Keith?
One thing is on the rating of the roads, it's good to have the PCI rating, but I think for two reasons, it would also be good to do a road tour again, as we have done in the past, to see the physical condition as opposed to what the PCI index. I mean, you can have a good PCI index, but terrible road, broken asphalt, the whole works. And I think for budget purposes and even for capital works next year, a road tour would only benefit us.
Al?
Would there be any sense in looking for some, I know you want to do it in-house, but looking for some outside help to help make that plan, even if it's a little bit better, then we stand a better chance of acquiring funding from the feds or the province. So it might be money well spent in the beginning to just make that plan a little bit better and get it a little bit quicker.
Hey, that's a great point. I think where what I mean by us doing it in-house, I think we will have to seek support, but it might be in different aspects of it. So it could be we need to get condition assessments, or we need to, bring in somebody to help guide us through it. But I think what's good for the municipality in the long term is to have internal staff understand what's gone into it, understand how to update it year to year. Part of the requirement is every 5 years, once you pass the asset management plan, is to pass another iteration and continuously work forward. So as you can imagine, it's great for consulting companies that develop them, and then 5 years later they do them again, and then 5 years later they do them again. I think it'd be nice we may need to rely on and have some support to bring in some of that help, but definitely do a lot of the legwork and the putting it together in here would be great. But your point well taken, and we will look to have some external support.
Okay, any other questions for Sean? Wendy, please?
So just because I'm new, I just want to make sure I'm understanding all this. So you're saying because we don't have a concrete asset management plan, we're not able to apply for some of these grants?
We can still apply, and we haven't been turned down yet based on that, but it's coming, I believe, because it's in almost every application is when was your last iteration, and every year that passes and we continuously put 2013, and there's been deadlines, it's not helpful, that's for sure.
They did say, and I remember Charlene telling council whenever this did come in, they did say that municipalities that don't have a robust asset management plan will eventually be turned down for provincial grants.
Okay, thanks very much, Sean, for the update. Next one is council assignments. Dean?
Well, it's just in, basically a report that we're just showing, because we did appoint Reeve Watt to the Fit and Feisty group, that reflects that, so that's basically just an update
Okay.
to make sure that's there if anybody wants to
Did
have
you
that.
send a copy of his birth certificate along with it, or?
I think we did that, yeah.
Okay.
He fit in well, he's the poster.
Okay, next item is the warming center. I guess I'll start it, and Dean, you can help me out. And I know that Wendy was there as well in her other capacity as secretary of the fire hall, so she did listen in. So I was approached by, had a conversation with the CEO at another meeting about a week or so ago about the homeless situation in Pembroke, Petawawa, Laurentian Valley, and all over, but more directed towards Pembroke and Laurentian Valley. I believe Pembroke Council, one of the members, brought forward an action item to look at what council can do to help out the homeless in this area. So they did have a meeting around the end of September, I believe, and Dean and I attended the meeting yesterday. Representatives from the OPP, the City of Pembroke, staff and council, members of a church committee, which is mentioned in this report, members from the Grind, and from the county. So quite a conversation yesterday, more to the fact that we do have an issue, and I know some council members have seen it more than others. So they were looking at putting in a warming center for this winter. Warming center meaning not a place to sleep, but a place to warm up. And there's items that the Grind was asked to put a budget together, what it would cost, and that is in the attachment in your package today. They were looking at the Sears building downtown, but they don't have enough time to put that together. I did ask Jerry Novak yesterday of the Grind what happened last winter without this proposal, and they were overwhelmed with people coming in, and they don't have the facilities to go the next step of the lounge chairs, something that people can sit in but not sleep in overnight. There's a number there somewhere, I'm not sure, it was over 2,000 people, whatever, last winter at the Grind. So they're looking for support. The church has come forward, and I believe they are in the position right now that there's a possibility of it being supported by their congregation I think next week, Dean.
Yeah, November 6th.
October 22nd, they have one meeting and another.
November 5th.
The presentation, I guess what the church did, the community task force, which is in your package, led by Steve Boland, did make a presentation to the City of Pembroke in September, and this is how it all got started. So I attended yesterday on council's behalf because I had an interest and I wanted to know what was going on in the area. And certainly you can see the costs for the warming center that the Grind put together November 1st, April 30th, regarding security guards, food costs, furniture costs, recliner chairs, et cetera, as I mentioned, security cameras, et cetera. The total cost there was $174. They're looking at, they would have to, after the conversation yesterday, they'd have to have a third security guard because they would have to have outside coverage as well. So they're looking at a dollar figure of about $250,000 for this winter. I know there's a need. From what we heard yesterday, there's a definite need. My question, again, to Jerry Novak, I said, guys, can you handle it this winter rather than jumping in here at the last minute, trying to put a plan together so quickly as the cold is coming? And they said they can't handle it, and I guess this is why the church has come forward. A long-term plan might be something like the Sears building downtown, but they just don't have enough time to secure that through planning issues, etc. So they're looking for money. Certainly, as I told them, they're looking around the table as to who is going to come up with some money towards this project for this winter, and I told them, we're at the end of our year, the same as the city, we don't have too many dollars put aside. But I think there is some dollar support around the table that I did hear. I'm looking tonight that I think this is a huge issue. It's not going to get any better unless the municipalities, the county, all the different parties come together and provide some kind of shelter for these folks. I truly believe it is a county issue, which I did say yesterday, and I do know, 1/3 of our taxes go to the county to cover a lot of costs, including mental health, addiction, etc. And I know they're doing their best. I'm not asking for a significant amount of money tonight, but I'm looking for possibility, an amount that we can show that at least we support it going forward, and possibly look at it in our budget for next year for maybe a larger amount. I think the folks that do have some money towards this are looking for municipal support of some kind, commitment. Again, I didn't ask council to go this has happened between council meetings. I heard about it, I was interested in it, I thought it was important in our municipality, and that's why I attended yesterday's meeting. So I kind of open it up to the floor, and we can have a chat about it, and Wendy.
So I just wanted to add maybe one comment that, because I was a part of a couple of the conversations, I know it was asked of me, why can't the grind do it again? So a couple of pieces were, the grind last year had some grant money given to them that was leftover COVID funding from the county, and that money is no longer. So that's why they don't have that money, and that's why they're asking for this. And the traffic, they just don't have the space. So that's why they're looking to move to a church.
Thank you. Anybody else? Brian?
So a bunch of the items in the budget there, the chairs, the lounge chairs, the security cameras, all that are fixed assets. Are they now sitting at the grind, or are they stored someplace, or are they movable, or?
No, I think in the report, it did say something about they had some costs put aside from the military. These items would have to be purchased. What they're looking for and hoping for, at least the church committee was yesterday, that some businesses may come forward once they get wind of this and donate some chairs. So they're going to look at trying to reduce the cost any way possible. I think they said the average chair was $1,400 to $1,500. I'm sure that some businesses will come forward once it gets out there. A lot of the costs are fixed. The security company, Algonquin College, I'm sorry, I didn't mention, but from Algonquin College yesterday.
Jamie Bramberger.
Yeah, Jamie was there yesterday. And they do have the Police Foundation course going on, and they're looking for hours. But the problem is they would still need security company staff there, because obviously these folks don't have the support. So the cost of security is a big item in this project. Being held at the church, there's no rent, which would be an additional cost next year if they happen to go to a fixed place like Sears or whatever. I did try to contact the CEO of the county today, and I am aware that city councilor, we're trying to call them as well to get an emergency meeting before their county council meeting next week. But that's not going to happen as far as I know. They got to go to their committee first, and then goes to the county council, whatever. I did kind of sitting beside one of the county employees yesterday, said, who knows, there might be somebody there as well. So I think if everybody, gave some kind of commitment, hopefully they can get this off the ground this year, and then have something more formal next year. But, I wish it was such short notice, but I'm sure if we had Jerry Novak sitting across the table, he'd have some information for us.
My question is, these homeless people are most vulnerable at night when the temperatures drop and everything else, and yet, so where do they go at night?
But this center is open at night, 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. is what is listed here, 7 days a week.
No, it's not a shelter. It will be a warming center, so they're allowed to go there and sit around and have a coffee and stuff like that, but they will be it's not sleeping in a lounge chair. That's what'll end up happening, I would assume. But it's not a shelter because the rules change on the governance of a shelter with regards to the Ontario Building Code. It changes the whole dynamic. So right now they don't have, and that's what they'd like to do with the Sears building, but they're not going to get there this year. So right now they're just considering a warming center to see. And I don't know whether they'll put time limits on it. They didn't get into that, whether it's a 3-hour time limit or a 4-hour time limit, or whatever. So some of them have like, once you check in, the first in by 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock, you have to stay till 7. It's locked and you can't get in or out. That's some of the rules, but we didn't get into all the rules depending on who's running it.
Wendy and then Jennifer.
So the difference between a shelter and a warming center, the shelter deems an all-night sleeping quarters, like you said. And then the warming center is come and go as you please. I mean, you know, if you're gonna have the lounging chairs, they sit. But as soon as you have the word shelter, then that changes the building code, and that takes a minimum of 90 days, minimum. It's gonna be probably longer, so that's why, that is the long-term goal, is to maybe have a shelter next year. But with the time frame, it's impossible.
Yeah, and I think and that's why with this setup, in and out as you wish, that's why they need somebody outside in security, to make sure things are okay. Jennifer?
I've never heard of this. Is there anywhere, warming centers, Ottawa, Toronto, they all have them?
Absolutely.
And where was the one that? Belleville, I think, yeah, there was one, he had, one of the city council members had attended one in Belleville and got a lot of details from there. So they are propping up in a lot of communities because of the serious need for them, so they're starting to come. Now, it's the first time we're obviously in the county of Renfrew. I don't believe we have another one, but it's something that's coming.
I know that, sorry, Alan, just before you, I know that this councillor did go to Belleville and got quite a tour. And it started off as a warming shelter with a few volunteers, and it's grown to a full-fledged shelter now, and very successful and helping a lot of people. Al?
So a lot of these people, it's far-reaching. I know they're in our area because this area and more the city of Pembroke is kind of the economic hub, and that's where they seem to go. How far-reaching are they looking for money? Because all of the other municipalities, at least in the Upper Ottawa Valley, should be partnering in this, because some of the people or some of the residents can or could be coming from their municipality as well. I have no doubt that we all have to support something like this, but I think we need to get everybody on board so that you know, you can't say, well, it's not my problem, it's your problem, you handle it. And to be honest with you, I agree with you that the county is the one that should be stepping up to take care of this across the entire county, and not individual municipalities. But that being said, I fully support that we as a municipality have to put some skin in the game, basically.
I know from one of the chaplains yesterday from the church, she mentioned that they've seen, I guess she's on the board of the grind as well, and had friends that found people in Deep River that were homeless from Eganville, and they're trying to support them as well. It was mentioned yesterday at the meeting that the various municipalities in the area will be approached to support it. I truly believe, and this is what I kind of said yesterday, I said, you kind of put the cart before the horse, and to put something together so fast is very difficult. I know they're in an emergency situation because the grind can't handle them, and the grind doesn't have the funding. So I take it from yesterday that, hey, we're looking for funding to get through this winter. We're gonna sit down as a committee with the county, everybody involved, to come up with a game plan for next winter, whether it's a warming shelter or it is a shelter, or a warming center or a shelter. And I think you'll see a lot of municipalities hopefully get involved, and there'll be a lot more time to put it together for next winter. So I'm asking council tonight, I know I asked Dean yesterday to see if Sean can find some money, and couldn't find Sean today because he was under his desk looking for it. But I don't know. I'd like to try and commit some money to it to see this project get off the ground. I know they're looking for $250,000. I know one councillor from the city yesterday said they were going to city council tonight for $100,000. Obviously, we're not looking at that number, but, you know, if we're looking at $20,000 to commit to the warming center this winter and see where it goes from there. Jennifer?
So money aside, like, if we do decide that, yes, we want to do this, is this going to be not even a committee, but can we do more? Like, is there more that we could do as individuals for this? Like, are they going to announce this so that we can give our time, or?
I don't know that, Jennifer. I know that the county has gotten more involved with VTAC, where if you call, they will, or they're going to be going out and doing wellness checks to the homeless when they know that there's some in some areas. It's a very touchy situation because, you know, mental health plays a big role in all of this. And I've heard stories from in centers where they try and help out a family living on the side of the street, and they put them in a hotel room for a couple of days to kind of get them, you know, whatever. And they come by to check on them, and they're sleeping outside the door. They haven't gone in the hotel room yet. So there's some you can't help, but, you know, if they come back with helping out 2 or 3 families or individuals to get off the street, well, then we've done something.
I don't want to just give $20,000 and say, wow, well, I hope this helps, and we walk away from it.
Well, certainly, whether you can volunteer the grind or whatever, or I'm sure the church is going to be looking for volunteers if this moves forward, and they do use the church this winter. They will be looking, I'm sure they'll be looking for volunteers, because there will be security guards there as well. So certainly, I believe there will be some way that an individual can volunteer their time. Brian?
So with the space the grind has with its new facilities, is it in their long-term plans to add a shelter to it, or?
No, I think the long-term plan, as I mentioned earlier, is the Sears building.
Would it not be better all under one roof, though, as opposed to
Well, I don't
multiple
know.
places? And
Yeah,
I think the issue with the grind, unfortunately, they're having trouble with the location of it now, and they're getting a lot of feedback, and it's negative from the residents around, so they're trying to take that kind of concept and move it. I think in some cases they'd like to move it now, but they don't have really that, you know, financial backing to be able to move it. But if they get the warming center downtown, kind of in the sense of that Sears building, maybe then if the building's big, I don't know the logistics, but that's one of the issues of putting it in the grind now, is they're getting a lot of feedback there with the zoning compliance and stuff like that.
And, yeah, and like you said, they don't have the room to put the chairs. He said it was kind of a nightmare last year trying to run it out of the grind, so this is why the church group has stepped up, and obviously down the road, they're looking at the Sears or similar, getting out of the residential area, as Dean says.
Is this cathedral you're talking about then?
Pardon me?
Is this
No, actually Zion Church.
I think it's on Miller Street for now, and because it's not the most suitable place, but at least the PACT, as they call themselves, that group of ministries they're voting on it too. It's not a done deal too. They got to go to their council, and I think that's Wendy said. I think it's November 5th is their meeting, and they will have the meeting then, and decision will be made at that point.
It sounds like the original board of the church has agreed to move forward to take it to the congregation.
Yeah.
To have the final vote, but it sounds like it's pretty positive. So. Al?
So I would support a motion for $20,000 from the municipality.
Second by Jennifer?
Okay. So the motion, as we'll put it together to read, it'll say, council agrees to set aside $20,000 for 23-24 as a possible contribution to a community-based warming center to be located in the city of Pembroke. Is that okay with everybody? Wendy, maybe?
Could I make maybe a small suggestion to that motion?
Sure.
Upon approval of the church making that location, because if it's not approved, we don't know if it's going to happen. So I think that should be
Yeah, I think
part of the
whether
motion.
the church or the
So
warming
upon
shelter
warming center
being approved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave it
Good.
open-ended.
Further comments before the vote?
Is this coming out of next year's budget then, or what did you find under your desk?
Charlene left nothing under that desk. Either way, I think maybe we just leave it open-ended that it's through, maybe funded through the year-end surplus / deficit. So I guess if we were in a deficit position, that 20,000 be funded from the working capital reserve. And if we're in a surplus, then 20,000 of that surplus is allocated to fund this position.
I would assume that their goal is to open as soon as possible. So if they are successful with the church, I think they're gonna need the money up front ASAP, so I would assume it'll probably go in this year's budget. Also considering that this won't be the last visit regarding this project, so there may have to be looking at a budget item in 2024, but Keith?
I realize it's critical, and I'm not against the $20,000 fee, but in terms of budgeting, like even on an annual basis, with the way the economy is today, a lot of people are just holding on, plain and simple. It's going to affect the tax increase. Even the $20,000 is just about 0.5%. And I think we've got to be cautious that an overall plan is put together either through the county, the other municipalities, and together with the province before we even consider making it an annual thing.
No, I agree totally, and as I mentioned earlier, that I still strongly believe the amount of tax dollars that we pay to the county, that this falls under their department. And the county doesn't have any money left this year, like a lot of municipalities, I guess, or upper tiers, and we're 2 months away from year end. But certainly, they'll be getting the county at the table, and I think I'll probably be our representative there as well. But I think we're gonna have representation from a lot more municipalities and interested parties, including the county, when they move this forward for a permanent solution. So, again, I don't know where it's gonna go, but I do see by the motion tonight that at least we're committed and we're interested in trying to help out where we can. Okay, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Council. Okay, the next item is a lease agreement between Township of Laurentian Valley with the Ottawa Valley Waste Management Board.
I'm gonna let you do that one.
Oh, okay. This one's easier. As I mentioned to council at the committee meeting, that the center was successful in leasing out the building for recycling. It is a 7-year lease. I believe all the information's in the document. As you know, I think it's April 1st, 2024, this new company will take over. They will continue to operate it as a recycling operation until at least 2025, where it could then become a transfer station. And this was all mandated by provincial government through Blue Box funding. I believe we as a center are fortunate that the center that we have that is paid for can become a transfer station. Therefore, we became a player and various companies bidding on it because they would have to build their own facility to be a transfer station at the least. So I'm happy that we've got this done. This has to go through Laurentian Valley as all other waste recovery center items, because they're not a own entity, I guess, right? So this is just making it official. This is signing the agreement with the company, Intera. So it's a 7-year lease. They're also buying all of our equipment that goes with the MRF, which I believe is in the area of close to $400,000 as well. So we'll see where it goes. Any questions? Keith?
If it is a transfer station, where will it be transferred to? Any idea?
See, my understanding, I know there's more than one company bid on it. So some of the companies already have these larger recycling centers that they would just be able to take Brentford counties, basically, recycling to there and recycle the material. I believe this company might be looking at building their own facility in Ottawa. So they would continue to operate our MRF until that building was ready in Ottawa, if that's the plan they go. And then once it's ready in Ottawa, then we become a transfer station. Because all the recycling, the transfer station can't be any more than an hour away from the municipality. So that's why we ended up in the middle, and we also have the facility.
More traffic on Highway 17.
Yeah, more traffic. Absolutely. Any other questions? Motion? Alan and Betty?
Moved by Councillor Wren, second by Councillor King, that the council authorize the CAO clerk to execute a lease agreement between the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery, the landlord, and Halton Recycling Limited, DBA Mterra Environmental, the tenant, and that the Corporation of Township of Laurentian Valley, owner and trust for the part of the premises known as municipality as 900 Waito Station Road, being roll number 4766-074-05002300, and forwards bylaw number 2023-10058 as presented to the bylaw portion of the October 17th regular council meeting for passing.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Move down to information report of quarterly drinking water. Nothing there, Dean, just,
Not unless anybody has any questions.
okay. Down to bylaws, I guess, eh?
Yep, mover please and seconder.
Wendy and Keith?
Moved by Councillor Hewitt, second by Reeve Watt, that the following bylaws be enacted and passed and read in the first, second, and third time and be numbered and signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with seal of the corporation and be engrossed in this bylaw book the 17th day of October 2023. 2023-10-055 tax and wastewater rates. 2023-10-056 zoning bylaw amendment in Z 2023-12 Hill Blacksmith Store Workshop. And 2023-10-057 authorized mayor and the clerk to execute lease agreement with Halton Recycling Limited, DBA Mterra Environmental.
Any further questions? All in favor? Carried. Council comments? Keith?
Two of them. First one, in the OPP report, you're pretty quick there going through the reports. So for the treasurer, there was a lot of items as they were going through each category, and they had a statement called master code. Any idea what that is?
No, short answer is no. But what came with the report, we did get I think like a master list, so I can certainly, if you want to email me or call me and we can discuss it, then maybe we can work through it. I'm not very, like it's, as you said, it's a pretty big document and I'm really not that familiar with the Venn diagram on how to figure out how they came to it. But if you want to call me, we can certainly, and I can look into it and get you the answer you need on whatever those codes are and report back or.
Okay, thank you. The second item is that I did receive a call from a ratepayer on Forest Park Road regarding the high water, and I did send an email to Lori. The basic request is to pass their message on that the water is up significantly, and they'd like to see the dams open down below, Renfrew, Chenot, wherever, just similar as they're doing with the Madawaska River. Get that water gone now before the spring so that it'll avoid flood in 2024. So I'd just like to know if Lori can pass that on. Or?
Well, we can certainly pass that on. I think in the last few years that they have, since the 2019, where they didn't, in my opinion, living on the water, it didn't go down very much at all through the winter. But the last few years they have dropped. And now we have had significant rains, and I think that's why we've seen the increase. But I would think in time, in the next 3 to 4 weeks, it would go back down. But we can certainly put a message across that it came across the table and that we're watching. So make sure they should be watching, kind of thing.
There's supposedly a community group.
Yeah.
Paying strict attention to it.
And they need to do the same. They need to phone the Ottawa River Secretariat and let them know. Regulation Board.
Yeah, and just to follow up with that, so I'm receiving your message. I did forward that message to Menel right at the Outer River Regulation Planning Board, and so when she provides me with the response, I'll share that with all of council, and we can share that with the ratepayer.
Okay. Alan?
So, just a couple things with the airport. Just want to let everybody know that a few weeks back we met with, I guess a month ago now, we met with County Council and were afforded the opportunity to meet with county staff. And so that first meeting is happening this Monday morning at the airport with senior staff from the County of Renfrew. And thanks, Keith, and everybody on County Council for helping to make that happen. And hopefully we can set some goals and targets in that meeting to move that forward. Another thing, the airport just this week has come into an opportunity for a major fuel sale, and we may need the owner municipalities to help the airport commission out just due to what this sale might do to some cash flows. So we may have to have a special meeting called in order to facilitate that. So just want to make sure everybody's aware that that's happening, and you might get called to a meeting to see if we can help the airport make this fuel sale a reality. There's a substantial amount of profit to be made in.
Okay, thank you. Betty?
I know it's kind of early to talk about snowmobiles and trails and all that kind of stuff, but we all know that it's coming. We have had concerns from residents down the Burns Drive area, and I had mentioned, what's the possibility of putting photo radar or some sort of, if nothing else, the speed signs up to get some sort of reading, like some data back to.
They do have those already. They're down there already. There is a speed board down there. I'm not sure, Mark might be better to comment if they're getting it both ways or if it's just a one-way board. I don't know that for sure, but I do see it there once in a while that they're doing it. And do they collect data from that one, Mark? Do you know?
It's so it's the same one that we cost shared on with the county, so it does collect, it displays in one direction, collects data in both. So I would imagine between the Trailer Public Works, they would be pulling that data, and they could do speed reports, time of day use, that type of information would be available from it.
So I guess, and Betty and I have had this discussion, the possibility of photo radar. And I don't know if I don't remember photo radar being brought up, and I believe that can be enforced with the OPP. So I think Betty is asking if, yes?
I believe it can only do it on vehicles, like, because they got license plates on the front. I don't think they'd be established to be able to do it on a side-by-side, maybe a side-by-side catching it, but they're all over the place. And a snowmobile, they're never gonna catch it going across there, so. I do know OPP does, because I happen to get one and going through a school zone in Ottawa, so I know that works. But yeah, I don't think they would be able to do it on recreational vehicles. My opinion, anyway.
That you're asking Keith maybe to ask at the next committee meeting? I do know that there is a community safety sign, huge, at both entrances to the built-up area and down in Burns Drive, Mountain View. So those signs are there posting the 20-kilometer speed limit. Alan?
Could we get Keith also to request from the county that they pull that information and share it with Laurentian Valley from that speed board, if they're able to collect it going in both directions? So then there's some opportunity to have the OPP enforce speed at certain times of the day and the week when it seems that most of the infractions are occurring.
Betty?
Not just that, it'll give us a better opportunity to respond to the residents when they call, that we have the data, it's showing this is the average speed in that area, this is the amount of vehicles that are going through. It'll give us a more accurate reading of what's going through there.
But, and I agree, but the whole idea of that sign is to read exactly what we're talking about, and the county to enforce it by hiring their own OPP or whoever they're going to hire It's not up to the Laurentian Valley Council to direct the OPP to enforce the speed when it's not our trail. And to follow that up, I know we have requested through OPP reports for the last 2 years on the calls for service on the Algonquin Trail. And I'm hoping we get that information soon, and council can take a look at that report. But I just, the one other item I want to mention, and I don't know if Keith knows or not, but the trees were to go up this fall. Have they gone up?
Not yet, they're still to come in. It'll be late fall by the time they receive and install.
Okay. So I think they're what, 4 feet?
Yes.
Okay. Don't know if it'll help, but to start. Wendy?
Just to tie in with the OPP resources, I know that they do their best, but they are short-staffed as well, and unfortunately, emergencies would always take precedent to
Absolutely.
that.
I know, I know last year, speaking to the county, they were looking at the officers getting some overtime and looking for those officers to patrol and be paid an hourly wage. So I think that's where they were going.
Would that not be an opportunity for, let's say, an auxiliary or something to handle that piece of it, that they could reach out to
The
that
auxiliary
group?
can't lifelines. No. Keith?
They have had the OPP there on the trail maybe 3 times this year, and as Wendy was saying, it's all off-duty officers who volunteer their time, and part of the problem is getting everybody at the same time that is going to be operable when the trail is really busy. So that is a bit of a problem on its own, and it is quite costly by the time you get through it. So I know that they're continuing to try and work on it and see it improve, but it's, while the OPP are there, everybody's obedient, just like on the highway. But the day after they're gone, then
No, I know.
And just so, also too, the clubs, I mean, the ATV club and certainly the snowmobile FSC, they have obviously the SAVE team comes up a couple times a year and they do their kind of normal patrols, so they're down there too as well. And that doesn't cost anyway, that's a provincial mandate, so that's not costing us as taxpayers. Well, it's costing us as taxpayers, but not local taxpayers. The SAVE team runs on a provincial mandate.
So the SAFE team will select a location for the weekend, and they'll come up early Saturday morning, and they'll patrol the trails in this area. I think the SAFE team comes out of Cornwall, I believe.
Oh, they're
I'm not
different.
It's out of Aurelia.
Aurelia, okay. So they'll come up and they'll patrol the trails for the weekend, and if they have any information beforehand, they concentrate on the complaint areas.
Do they still have the trail wardens, like, do they?
Yeah,
trail
but they don't
wardens.
really have authority to lay charges, they just kind of enforce the rules and try and, usually they have an officer with them in case if there's a.
Yeah, the problem is the trail wardens do kind of stand out in the middle of the trail, so they can be
Slows them
seen
down.
quite a piece away.
Slows
It
them
slows them down for when they're there.
Yeah.
Okay, any other council comments? Wendy?
I just want to say thank you to the mayor and to council for supporting the warming center initiative, because it's very needed, and it is an emergency situation. It's not necessarily that we're planning to do this on an annual basis. I know the plan is to have this up and running within 4 weeks. So I just want to say thank you for the support.
You're welcome. The only other comment I'm going to make, and I'm going to turn it over to Mark, that our Halloween and on the trail begins this weekend. Maybe Mark can give us an update.
Sure, I'll give our group a little plug. So it's our second annual Halloween at the Trail event. This Friday and Saturday, both from nights from 6 until 9. Fingers crossed the weather cooperates. I know it's not going to be 20-some degrees like last year, but hopefully the rain holds off, and then the following weekend again, both Friday night from 6 until 9. So we did a walkthrough with a bunch of the scare actors and volunteers last night, and we have a pretty good group of people, and I know the mayor's going to help us a little bit, and Councillor King's going to come and scare some people in the back with us, so should be lots of fun.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Alrighty, note and file.
Yes, mover and seconder, please.
Jennifer, Betty?
Moved by Counselor Gauthier, second by Counselor King, that that any items not specifically addressed by motion in the regular council meeting of October 17, 2023 be noted and filed accordingly.
All in favor? Carried. Confirmatory bylaw? Alan? Wendy?
Moved by Counselor Wren, second by Counselor Hewitt, that be it resolved that the Council of Township of Laurentian Valley approves a confirmatory bylaw 2023-10058 as having been introduced, read a first, second, and third time, and the said bylaw be numbered and signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with seal of the corporation this 17th day of October 2023.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And adjournment. Brian and Keith.
Moved by Counselor Hughley, second by Reeve Watt, that the regular council meeting of October 17th, 2023 be adjourned at 6:45 PM.
All passed. All in favor? Thank you.